Hallo miteinander, I'm Geshidi6 and this is Ghost Hunter Reimu. Last time we've seen the two conclusions of Reimu's quest. I personally preferred the one where we didn't leave the carcasses of our friends in a hallway. I've shown you many of Reimu's mystical powers during the Let's Play, but even with the diversity in playstyle that I've tried for, there were two spells we never picked up. Better late than never, I present to you the shield magic. This sets down a globe at your position that will absorb enemy bullets so long as it lasts, which is unfortunately only 3 seconds. A good use for it is as a cover. You could hide inside or behind the shield and fire at your foes with ranged spells. You could also simply envelop the enemies in the shield, which will stop them from shooting at you altogether. In theory, there are some benefits to this spell, but personally, I never bothered much with it. The downfall of the shield magic is, plain and simple, the convenience of Guard Beheader and its enhancement. I don't see the need of a spell for blocking bullets, when I can do the same for no MP cost. Also know that what you're seeing is the shield magic with maximum spell enhancement. Without a mage build, this spell is just pathetic. Look at that, it's puny. The other magic we've never encountered is at least a little more interesting. I call it the Vortex magic, and it sets up a hazardous zone that will continuously damage foes. Against stationary opponents, this may be the most destructive spell of them all, granted you bring a rank or two of spell enhancement. I've discovered a pretty ingenious property of this spell. It is the only one Reimu has that won't be stopped by walls. We could have had a lot of fun with this technique, but I was always too concerned with its limitations. Somewhat agile enemies may leave the radius early, which can make it rather ineffective. Nonetheless, the Vortex magic is something worth experimenting with. I've noticed, for example, that it absolutely wrecks the snake boss, who never moves. Now the main meat of our bonus episode is going to be Yomo Mode. Yomo Mode is more than the chance to play as an alternative character, it is also an additional difficulty level. Before we get into the action though, we're going to watch the intro sequence. It's the last one I've had translated, damn if we're not using it. Like Reimu, Yuyuko is suffering in the heat of summer. So much that she has lost her appetite. Unthinkable. Yomo arrives and also states that Yuyuko seems to have lost her appetite. True or not, saying this so openly must be somewhat of an insult to the Lady of the Netherworld, so Yomo is subtly threatened into taking back her words. With this conflict avoided, Yomo hands her lady an object she fetched from their storage room. Because of how cutscenes are presented in this game, we don't learn what this object is. But even Yomu, who should be able to see it, can't identify the object. Yuyuko, the big tease, also won't tell her what it is. Yomu then continues her status report, informing that the puppeteer, undoubtedly Alice, has been given accommodations. Yuyuko can only admire Alice's willingness to work in the current heat. A heat that only Yomu doesn't seem to mind much. The scene ends as Yuyuko gives Yomu a mission. Think back to the start of the Let's Play and you'll know what that mission is. In a moment, we'll slowly fade to black and move to the inside of Hakugyokuro, where Alice does a sort of awkward walk. This was intended by the developers. She comments how she is not at all used to the kimono she was given and only just changed into. Nonetheless, she appreciates the fashion and gets to repairing the dolls. At that moment, Alice first notices the ominous box. She's puzzled that she missed it until now, and suspects doll parts provided by Yuyuko in it. Alice inspects the contents of the box, and we all know this can't end well. A hardly identifiable apparition emerges, and Alice is left confused by what's happening and starts feeling dizzy. Oh boy. With that, we switch to another scene between Yuyuko and Yomu. This one happens right after the very first cutscene of Reimu mode. Yuyuko is very inquisitive about her letter being properly delivered and has her servant reaffirm that it was. She is, by the way, the only character in the game that got no redesign, which almost makes Yuyuko a bit of a letdown here. Of course, she already fit the theme of a Japanese ghost story. Right here, Yomo asks what the whole matter is about, and you've guessed it, Yuyuko does not give a straight answer. She just says that Reimu should be able to handle the situation. This text translates to, later as night falls. We are brought to the beginning of the prologue stage, where the incident has already begun. A very alarmed Yomo arrives and anxiously demands an explanation from her lady. For a change, she's actually somewhat compliant and mentions that a seal has been lifted much earlier than anticipated. She continues that Reimu should be coming to this place soon. Out of decency, Yomo did not read the letter, so now she is informed that it was meant to lure the Shrine Maiden to Hakugyokuro tonight. At this point, Yuyuko admits that the incident may be more dangerous than expected and asks Yomo to ally with Reimu. The next thing she says is especially interesting. The effect will not be as drastic on Yomu as it will be on Reimu. Yuyuko apparently knew that Reimu might get possessed. The line is also a reference to the gameplay. Yomu has no ghost or corruption gauges. Yomu's gameplay is also what we're moving on to now. The Half-Phantom has a completely new set of spells, and there are also a couple of other differences to Reimu among the purchasable skills. Most of all, Yomu always has the ability to cancel bullets by slashing. She does not need Guard Beheader for this. This, in my opinion, gives her a natural bias to becoming more of a melee character. She is a samurai gardener, after all. This is even enforced by the fact that her spells are more about gaining lasting effects, unlike the mostly elemental magic Reimu uses. Let's look at the 5 active powers you can buy as Yomu. The first I like to call Combat Focus. Activate this and your next strike will deal double damage. Pretty good, I'd say. What's fortunate about it is that only a successful hit will delete the charge. You can slash the air without worry, you don't have to play extra precise just because of it. Next up, the Energy Wave. Use this and your next slash will produce a handy ranged attack. While I don't rely much on this ability in combat, know that it is necessary for destroying some of Yomo Mode's netherworld seals. In that regard, here's a little secret. The energy wave can be angled just like the lightning magic. If you don't discover this, some of the netherworld seals will seem unreachable. The third spell of Yomo is one that can be good, but often doesn't feel needed. It is a protective barrier that works roughly like Reimu's shield magic. Wildly waving her katana around is Yomu's primary defense against showers of bullets. Just like with the shield magic, I argue that you don't need much more than that. Our second to last spell is among the most useful. Activate it, and Yomo can do a one-time super jump, the one that Reimu had to be possessed for. It doesn't exchange for your normal jump, you have to press down and jump at the same time to do it. Jumping puzzles matter quite a bit in Yomo mode, so don't underestimate the jump magic, just because it's not a tool for fighting. Last but not least, we can make our Ghost Half fire at enemies. The Ghost Half will stay aggressive for about 10 seconds and automatically shoot at foes 4 times in that time frame. This is definitely a good spell, although expensive. It'll support you well while you just fight normally after a swift activation. Unfortunately, it can be a little inaccurate against quick targets, a relevant downside to consider. And that's it for Yomu's spells. She also has a few purchasable sword techniques, like this air-to-ground slam. There's something to experiment with. I personally haven't. Apart from getting a few supporting spells, I've mostly built up Yomo in a way that made her standard slashes do more damage. If you ask me what I like best about Yomo mode, it's that it's technically all brand new rooms. Yes, they have strong similarities to those of Reimu mode, but they have so many additional gimmicks and hazards thrown in that it's by all means a new experience. Yomo mode also introduces one gameplay element that Reimu mode did not have at all: the switch sequence puzzles. In these, you have to find and press 8 switches in the correct order. They are usually scattered pretty far over a map, and to add to the challenge, an out-of-order pressing resets the whole sequence. It'll also take you a while just to learn the switches' numbering, as they're labeled with stripes in changing patterns. Some of these puzzles are moderately tough, others are the difficulty spikes of Yomo mode. Luckily, not all of them are mandatory. Similar to the key doors, the puzzles correspond to colorful locked doors, which may bar a room's exit, or just a bonus chamber. Apart from new puzzles, Yomo mode is designed to be more challenging when it comes to combat too. This is not Yomu's fault, she is a very good character. Nope, enemies are simply more numerous and stronger. You'd never see such a picture in Reimu mode. Overall, I think Yomo mode is a great addition to the game, so you must be wondering why I'm not fully including it in the Let's Play. That's because it would mean 10 more episodes of mostly just new levels. I don't think I have the volume of commentary to make that much more content worthwhile. I've already given you all the basic gameplay information, all the trivia I could think of, and how I feel about the game. Don't let my decision to exclude Yomo mode from the Let's Play alienate you. It is a lot of fun, and I recommend you play it for yourself. I just want to avoid this video series overstaying its welcome. That is why we are having this clip show instead. There is one part of Yomo mode, however, that I wanted to show you in full, without cuts. And it is the final boss battle. Most of the boss battles in Yomu's story are virtually unchanged and may even feel a little underwhelming compared to everything else. But this one? Well, we'll see. Here we had an empowered curse stall. It moves faster than the standard ones and we could have ignored it, but we are not in such a rush. The more you see of Yomu, the better. In the final chamber, we find Alice. No surprise, we were hardly going to run into a second Yomu who has already defeated Alice, were we? I didn't get translations for this part, so my limited and not very accurate anime vocabulary will have to do. Alice seems surprised that someone arrived here before Reimu did. Nonetheless, she throws a quick death threat and attacks. Yomo is ready and determined to defend herself. And with that, we commence with humiliating Alice. You thought this was a non-issue as a melee-centric Reimu? Yomo is arguably even more powerful with her swordplay than the Shrine Maiden, so we just wreck Alice. We almost didn't get hit, only once right at the end there. The game continues as soon as you talk with dead Alice here. You could use one of the lampposts first if you were badly hurt. You might get healed. Why would you want to? Because the boss fight goes on against evil Reimu. This seems to be the exact same conversation we had in our evil route playthrough. So yeah, Yomo Mode connects to that timeline. Not a pleasant one. The difference is that we are now fighting on the side of justice against our fallen protagonist. We get a quick change in arena layout and we begin. First of all, Reimu can set up yin-yang orbs as fixed turrets. They are destructible and you should get rid of them quickly. The most fearsome move to me though is the trio of fireballs. But that sudden shot there is also pretty nasty. One way of anticipating Reimu's attacks is knowing her speech cues for each, but they don't always seem to trigger. Some of her spells, like set fireballs, also have distinct conjuring sounds and animations. Remembering those also helps. Something that is again a problem is the boss simply ramming us. Little we can do there when we're point blank. Because of this, try to utilize ranged attacks like your auto-firing ghost half as much as your MP allows. We beat Reimu, but she gets up for one more fantasy seal that we'll have to avoid. Was this supposed to be dodgeable? I can tell you that it wasn't. Us losing this fight was a scripted event. And we are given the same ending that evil Reimu had when we played as her. It kind of makes sense. Just so you know, you have to survive until the fantasy seal, also known as Hex Sign, everyone dies, is used. Die from losing all HP in the fight itself, and it's simply game over, just like anywhere else. It's too bad that her mode doesn't enable Yomo to become the actual hero of the story. She's just doomed to lose. I've tried several things to find a different outcome. For example, I've used an item from the shop to revive once on death, hoping that somehow nullified the fantasy seal. Doesn't work. I've also lost to Alice on purpose once, since Yomo did lose to her on the good route. Very sensible, but also no. I really think Yomo Mode only has this ending, unless there's something very obscure you have to do. Should you know what it is, do tell me, I'm curious. Alright, we find ourselves at the credits for a third time. For a change, we see screenshots of Yomo. Once Yomo Mode is beaten, the extra stage unlocks and can be selected from the file select screen. It can be played as either pleasant Reimu or a permanently possessed Reimu, complete with taking double damage but also having double health. Now I would have showed you some example clips of the extra stage at this point, but since I might expand the Let's Play by said extra stage after all, let us refrain from that. Today, however, we have reached the planned end of this playthrough. I hope you had a good time throughout, and that you were horrified, but only in the intended and welcome ways, as in there were spooky ghosts, and one outcome that was rather shocking. But yeah, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I appreciate your interest and support. With that, I'm Gashady6, this was Ghost Hunter Reimu, and next time, most likely something Toho again, but possibly not on PC this time. Bis bald!